And it's my pleasure to introduce Dr. Kingsley Gnanadurai. He is the head of the Emergency Department and Deputy Chief for Medical Services, Bangalore Baptist Hospital, Bangalore. He is an accomplished and qualified practitioner of internal medicine and emergency physician. He has completed his UG and PG in CMC Vellore and also done an MBA in hospital administration. He is a great teacher and a faculty for various communication workshops in CAHO. And we are waiting to listen to you, sir. Over to you, Dr. Kingsley.
Thank you, Dr. Anuradha, for that wonderful introduction of me. Thank you so much. And thank you, CAHO and ASQA, for having this platform where we are talking about continued quality education. And I'm really feel honored to be here to speak on my session, which is going to be on unacceptable communication. Defining unacceptable communication. So when we are looking at communication, it's all about behavior. So that's why I put it as unacceptable behavior. So how do we decide what is unacceptable? It's based on the expectations, and a lot of times there are different levels, and according to that, the behavior or the communication may be worded as unacceptable. So just to put a perspective to this, like when we say aspirational behavior. So if a hospital has certain vision, mission statement, many of those certain components of it may be aspirational. Like for example, if you have a Mother Teresa hospital and they say that everybody needs to be like Mother Teresa, so that becomes an aspirational expectation. And any behavior which is not appropriate to that falls short of it. So that is the higher degree of expectations. Then you have reasonable expectation. Like a patient comes to the hospital, they know they may have to wait for some time for the doctor to be seen, maybe 10-15 minutes before they can have a consultation, go to the pharmacy, have another 5 minutes to 10 minutes of wait time, and go finish their whole trip to hospital in a matter of 1 hour, 1.5 hours or so. So that may be considered as a reasonable expectation, and the communication or the behavior may be appropriate according to that. Then we have a bottom line expectation, like a simple greeting, addressing the person by name, not being rude, courteous in what needs to be done. That is considered more like a minimum requirement in any kind of behavior or what you would say as a communication. So we have different spectrum in which we have different levels of expectations. So aspirational expectations, reasonable, and bottom line. Then we have a category which is the non-negotiable or unacceptable communication. So if you do this, it is considered as completely not expected of a healthcare professional. So this again has various changes on the institute or where they are working and things like that. So I'm just going to share with you a few scenarios and go over this. So just to tell you, there is a gentleman who has circumcision and is come for a dressing. The doctor who was attending the patient, in the middle of the dressing, gets a phone call, and he just steps out to take the call, and then he gets lost in the call for 10 minutes. Meanwhile, patient is lying in undress. So is this an acceptable behavior? And the doctor comes back and continues the dressing as if nothing has happened. So this, if you look at it, the patient is actually left in such a vulnerable state. Straight away, we can say this is unacceptable. We are not going to have this kind of behavior tolerated. But what to do? There are many a time people just take things for granted with the patients, and these issues can happen. This is another scenario. Like I'm going to give a name to this. Dr. Victor, he was the ENT doctor, and to him a Muslim patient had come, and she said she had a problem with her right ear. and she exposed the right ear for him to examine. And the doctor, after the right ear examination, said he needs to see the left ear. And the patient was very puzzled and said, why should I? And then he explained to her that she needs to be. And then he said, I need to see your throat also, because ear, nose, throat are all linked. So I need to examine all of it. So the patient got a little upset and said, I don't want to be seen by a male doctor. I need a female doctor to see. So all these dialogues took some time to happen. And on that day, the lady doctor in that ENT department was not available. And the Dr. Victor lost his cool and he got agitated with the patient and said, you people always come like this. How can you expect us to treat? And he was screaming and shouting. Is this okay? This is also unacceptable, because the patient has a right to choose who they want to see and how they want to do it. And you have no reason to get upset over it. And if they are of a different religious background, it makes it even more complicated, because this could just straight away land up in a big issue. So this, again, is an unacceptable scenario. This is a palliative room. There's a patient who's got end-stage cancer and is waiting for his last moment with the family all standing around. And since this is a long-standing case, the patient has been in and out of the hospital many times. Most of the people knew, and the whole family was expecting that the patient is going to die. They are waiting and they're sad and quiet. A nurse comes in, checks on the patient's vital, and she said, why are you all sad? You all know, right? Very soon, all of us will have to meet, go to heaven sometime. He's just going early. That's all. Is this statement okay? How we look at it? There didn't seem to be an empathy here. It's a very sad situation, but still making a statement like this. I'm just transitioning from one scenario to another scenario to show that how easy it is to get mixed up to see which is acceptable and which is not acceptable. This is another scenario where you have a doctor who's in the middle of explaining to a patient family about their sickness. And it was an end-stage disease, and the doctor is explaining about the prognosis, and everything looked grave and sad. And suddenly one colleague barges in to invite them, colleague of his, for a wedding. And their conversation is happy and lively, bubbly over there. And as the doctor leaves giving the invitation, the other doctor gets back to his very sad, grave mood and continues. Is this interruption okay? Is this kind of talk okay? So all these scenarios, if you look at it from the patient point of view, it is not nice to have this kind of behavior. But how will you say what is completely unacceptable? So when we look at it, the unacceptable, we can break it into two categories. One is the code of ethics. So code of ethics is very clearly defined, and there are a lot of factors under it. So if somebody comes under the influence of alcohol to work, is it saying okay? No, definitely not. So it's a very clear break of code of ethics. What about organizational policy? So this is where the patient rights and defining the patient rights come into play, because anything which violates a patient rights, infringes a patient right, or makes it in any way compromises their safety, all of them become unacceptable. So we have unacceptable communication ranging from a very bad break in code of ethics to a break in patient rights, which is quite bad, and any harm to patient safety. And this transition becomes no longer black and white. It has a lot of grace to it. And this is where an organizational policy becomes all the more important when we are going to handle unacceptable communication. So I'm talking a lot about doctor or a healthcare professional versus the patient communication. But is that all? In any organization, there is communication between healthcare professionals. How do we define this? Is it okay to have people bully somebody? Is it okay for a person to scream at another co-worker? Is this acceptable? There's a lot of areas on this which still have clarity needed. But it is very clear when it comes to workplace guidelines, because it is like any other industry, and there are very clear-cut rules and policies on this, on what would be appropriate, what would be inappropriate. But in healthcare, there's one category which we call as medical jousting. So what is that? When you kind of instigate trouble against somebody else. So it can be like, we have a lot of scenarios, like we have different systems of medicine in India. We have Ayurveda, Siddha, Ayush doctors, homeopathy, and they all come as accepted systems of medicine. So we have many a time a patient coming and telling, I took this and I'm having this. So you label it saying it's all because of that. Maybe we may not even know that. Or just to say another scenario, a person after a thyroid surgery had hoarseness of voice, and there's a person who immediately says, oh, you went to that doctor, that is why your voice is like this. So that makes it very clearly an instigation of trouble. And sometimes within the same institute also it can happen when there are people with differences. Oh, she started that line, that's why it is like that. That one small remark can put the other healthcare workers' expertise under question and make it difficult. So we have all these kind of different behaviors, and a communication are all corresponding to that. So as an institute, we need a culture where we define what is an acceptable policy, where we are going to safeguard the patient rights, and we are going to safeguard the patient safety. And we are also going to look at whether it is a disruptive behavior with regards to the healthcare professional or not. So what do you look at this disruptive behavior? So if you look at this, are linked with a lot of medical errors, patient mortality, and this is widely across. And every one of us, as we have gone through our medical career, we have had somebody been disruptive to us. It may be as simple as, oh my God, you're useless in rounds. I can't believe it, I gave you this thing to do. So we have these kind of loud remarks which can belittle us, demean us, and make us feel like we are worthless too. And sometimes it can be plain bullying, where there can be somebody with their own insecurities bullying another person. So this is interpersonal issues between healthcare professionals, and they all have a disruptive issue. And this disruptive behavior can also lead to a lot of medical errors. And if we look at it, even the scenario, as a child seeing TV serials, we always see doctor as a very patronizing, maternal, grandfatherly person. Now we have doctors, we have like Dr. House, disruptive, which such a horrible personality. And yes, we do have people like that in every institute who may be exceptional, but their behavior may not be all that great. So should the team suffer for these kind of people? These are questions which the organizational policies should address. And yes, these things have an impact on the patient care, and they really do mean a lot when it comes to how a patient safe atmosphere can be maintained, and a very comfortable working atmosphere can be maintained. So unacceptable behavior is something that is often ignored when it is not so bad, and people tend to forget and forgive and move on. But it really has a major impact on the patient safety and how we develop relationship around us. So there are various things that we look at. There can be a passive aggressive behavior where people tend to not really take how the other person is telling. They may accept it, not do it. Then there's a passive disrespect, always not following things. These are ways which are also disruptive. And certainly they can affect the patient's safety. So overall, if you look at how we are going to handle this, a strong policy on how to handle a disruptive behavior. When do we draw the line to say this is unacceptable? Has to be defined in each institute. And which level would it mean action needs to be taken? And since there's a lot of gray zone here, this needs to be defined according to the situation and based on the leadership to make sure the culture of safe working environment and safe patient care can be always maintained. So remember, when you choose to be pleasant and positive in the way you treat others, you've also chosen in most cases how you are going to be treated by others. Like, do unto others what you like others to do to you. So follow that, and I'm sure that all your communications with regarding to whichever level it is going to be is always going to be acceptable and never unacceptable. Thank you.
One question is, how do we train our staff who are on leadership roles to change their disruptive behavior?
It's a very, very difficult thing. It can be done at various levels. One, it can, who is the person who's going to bell the cat? That's the most important thing we need to look at. So if we have the top leadership, that is top-down approach, where you have the senior most leaders saying that culturally that we are going to have a safe working environment, that makes all these disruptive behaviors unacceptable straight away. But putting it down at ground level, how to put it into work, a simple candid conversation over coffee can be a starter to begin with. And if not, a multi-team to address this issue. And if the person is not willing, then the organization will be at a tight spot to choose. They want to have a happy team or they want to have a disruptive person. So it's going to be a challenge there.
Yeah, thank you, sir. And the next question is, do we need to train healthcare workers to work better?
Yes, we always need to. I think it's more of how to work as a team. I think we have various sessions coming forward and how to escalate if they are uncomfortable. And most importantly, when they need to tell that they cannot take this kind of behavior. How often we find the doctor telling the nurse in a very hierarchical way, like, do this, as if dismissing the other person and not considering them as a part of the healthcare team as an equal. So we have situations where it goes up and down. But this is going to be a big challenge if we don't make the person at the other end say that I am not going to take this. So once there is somebody going to stand up to the bully, automatically the bully will come down. So it's just a matter of empowering people, giving them opportunities or more to say pathways where they can address this so that it is not let off. Like nobody goes scot-free for their disruptive behavior. And it is not an easy issue to handle because when you have power differentials across and it is the people who are the ones who are in power who sometimes can be pretty aggressive and disruptive, it is a problem dealing with it. So that is where having policies and systems in place where these can be brought out and a safety netting to prevent people from misusing it would also be essential.
Yeah, thank you so much, sir, because it's a very difficult and sensitive issues to handle. And thank you for sharing your views with us. Thank you so much.